I'm going to get started with the first question, which is, when did we first meet? What grade were you? Yeah.
We met in grade 6. That was an interesting year.
How so?
I mean, it wasn't the best year in school in general, but you were like my saving grace that year, I think.
Oh,
You were my favorite teacher that year. In all
wow.
honesty.
Thank you, Elva. I don't know, it's kind of, whenever I hear a student say that, I always kind of freeze up and feel, I feel guilty. I don't know how to explain it. I feel guilty because I know where your heart is coming from, and not every student is going to connect to a teacher the same. But I feel guilty because I know how amazing, you know, some of the other teachers are, and how other kids would have chosen them as their favorite, right? So to each his own. And actually, it's kind of like going to a buffet. Not everybody's going to eat the chicken, but somebody's going to eat the chicken, right? So each dish, if you will, like a teacher, is going to serve a student in some way. And because we can't all be the same, right? So I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Okay, so the next question. Tell us a little bit about your beautiful brain and your neurodiversity. So in part 2, you really got into defining ASD. So you don't have to define ASD unless you feel comfortable doing that again. But tell us about you and your experience with ASD.
Well, my experience, a lot of what I had explained about ASD was just generally from my own experience, because I can't entirely speak for other people. I can hear their stories and convey that message, but I can't speak for them, I find, unless I work in a similar way. So I can sort of see where they're coming from, but I wouldn't be able to feel that. And so I wouldn't know what their experience would be like. But in my own experience, the thing I mentioned about the yogurt was true. I've recently started eating yogurt, and I wasn't expecting there to be only, I was expecting there to be only liquid, and there was not only liquid, and I actually had to familiarize myself with the texture of like the strawberries in the yogurt, and I got used to it over like a day, and so there are challenges. It is usually sensory. For the longest time, when it came to cooking, I would have to wear an oven mitt, even if I was just like stirring boiling water or something. I recently stopped doing that. I can, have my hand over it perfectly fine, the pan, or like pot or whatever it is. But it's very difficult because the heat makes me feel uncomfortable, and it makes me feel like I'm gonna get burned, right? I'm not entirely sure. I don't know where the burning point is, and I'm quite worried about that all the time. And then just some other things. So there's a lot to do with sensory. I don't like loud noises. Sometimes I remember in the music room, sometimes I would just get a bit uncomfortable with how loud some of the kids were playing, but it was a comfortable environment. So even though sometimes they were very loud in my ears, it was still a pleasant experience.
That's wonderful. That surprises me, because I do know that that's one of the common issues that I have encountered with kids over my 12 years of teaching, children with ASD, that they would have to wear headphones all the time when they were in my room. So that was just something that I was accustomed to, right? But like you said, to each his own, and everyone has their story. You can't speak through the lens of someone else. You can only, speak generally on behalf of them. But I want your story anyway. I don't want their story. This is about you right now. So let me move to the next question. What was the most difficult thing about being in the music room during music classes?
Oh, most difficult thing in the music room during classes was, again, probably the noise, I think, sometimes. Again, not all the time. I mean, there was the occasional, like, yelling or, like, oh, that is very loud, but I mean, it was something I got accustomed to, so I think generally sometimes even playing in front of the people, which I didn't do a lot. So, and you know that. I didn't often play a lot in front of the other kids. I only did it like once or twice, I think, throughout the several years that I've had you as a teacher because of how uncomfortable it made me.
Yeah, I understand that. Thank you. Okay, so my next question. How did I help you to feel comfortable as your music teacher?
Oh my gosh, this is something I remember feeling like the day I first met you. Because you were such a cool teacher. You were so kind and so nice to everyone when we first met you. You were like, hi, I'm Miss Walker. And you just told us about yourself. And I was so interested. You just seemed so relaxed. And you just seemed like that cool teacher everyone loves. And you did turn out to be that teacher, which is what I love. You were never really mad at the other kids unless it was like a really bad situation. Like you always handled the situations well, like and you were just so calm about it too. And I think everyone loves that in a teacher. I mean, it's generally that. You were just so open and welcoming, and I was always excited to come into your room even if I didn't know what I was going to play that day, or if I knew I was just going to mess around on the keyboard. I was always excited for your class, even just to be able to say hello.
Aw. Well, I miss having that time with you, being able to say hello and goodbye. So I'm glad we're having this time together. This means a lot to me. So when I wrote the musical Lucy and Maayaa over 4 years ago and made new edits a year later, how did you feel when I told you that I had created the new character Elezra to represent you?
I remember you pulling me out and just telling me about it. Like, you pulled me aside and we were in the hallway and you were explaining it to me. And my first thought was, whoa. Like, I'm sorry, I was inspiration for a character? Hello? That is such an honor. I mean, you know, you don't expect that to happen, and then you hear it, and you're just sort of, what just happened? I was really ecstatic at that, and I think that also really made me happy that, I mean, the musical is to bring attention to these neurodiversities, right? And so, hearing that there would be someone with ASD was just finally someone understands.
I wish I could say that I fully understand, Elva, but I still don't. And that's why I think these modules, these unpacking conversations need to be had. And as you know, we're doing it the reverse of what the plan was. The plan was put the musical on, right? And then that would be in the morning. And then in the afternoon, take kids into small pods and unpack the music like this. But because of the pandemic, things got flipped. But I believe it got flipped right side up. And so I'm going to go with that. And but sort of backing up to what you said, that finally someone understands. Well, I don't know, maybe it's not finally someone understands, maybe finally someone cares to understand, right? And someone wants to give voice to as many children as I possibly can, because I've worked with so many different kids, you know, kids with hard of hearing, you know, Down syndrome children, you know, so I've worked with so many different kids, and I never go into the room thinking, okay, well, that child's deaf and that child's got ASD and that child has an IEP. I never, ever enter a room that way. I always enter it with the intention of, we're going to learn music together today. And I'm not quite sure how we're going to get there, you know, or who's going to get there first, but we're going to all get there together, right? So that's always been my thinking anyway, and just so desperately wanting to hear from the souls of my students. And you trusted me, so because we developed that bond, it made sense for your story to be told, because we had that connection, and I was going to be playing Ms. Walker, you know, ironically, in the musical. And I knew that you weren't at that time, you know, feeling comfortable to be on stage playing yourself. So yeah, that's why we brought someone else in to do it, right?
This is what I mean. It's that Miss Walker energy.
Oh. Oh. All right, so here's the next question. What song does Elezra sing in the musical to express how you feel about being in school sometimes?
Calming Space.
Yeah. So let's pull it apart a little bit. I mean, I know that I think I asked you the question, I don't know if it was in part 1 or part 2, your favorite lyric, and I think you said all of them.
Yeah, I don't really have one, because I kind of relate to all of them to some degree.
Yeah. So that's a tricky one for you to answer, because when I wrote it, I was writing it for you. So it wasn't meant to be in part for you, like, oh, only this part's going to relate to you, Elva, right? And here, you know, let me just share this with you a little bit too. Because this is your testimony, this is your story, and everybody's story is different. Some people have a father that, you know, father, why do I have to this? Or, you know, maybe they have 2 fathers, or maybe they have 2 mothers. You have a mother. That is your story. And so the song has to tell your story, which is why I'm trying to think of the right words to say here and be politically correct. But it's why the song can't be changed to suit an environment, because wherever you go, you're carrying your story in your soul. Wherever you go, that is, you are bringing your environment to the environment. So it's not like we need to change it to this to suit this environment, because that would be to suggest that Elva News has to be someone different when she steps into this room, because you're carrying your story. This is your song. This is your story. And while it's out of context to some people who hear it for the first time, because they're not hearing it from the musical, it's still your story. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is, and I didn't see myself doing this, by the way, this was an unplanned situation, but it's because I wanted to change the word yellow to green. Home is filled with yellow zones. And when you think about the color zones, yellow zone isn't a place that people really want to be. But the truth of the matter is that you and I both know green means go. And sometimes you're more comfortable just staying in that yellow space and not going into that green go, 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 right? And that's what's brought out in the dialogue in the musical. It's like, why yellow space? And then Elezra returns because green means go. And sometimes go is just not where you want to be. You know, sometimes you just need to let yourself sit in that yellow space. Does that make sense?
I very much feel that. I mean, sometimes if I'm in a bad mood, I'll go into my room. That's my kind of calming space. My house is my comfortable place overall, but my room, to be more specific, is where I'm more comfortable. And sometimes if I'm in a bad mood, I mean, my room, of course, is where I'd like to calm down. But sometimes I just need a while to stay in that bad mood, just to reflect on what happened, whatever it may be.
That's good. That's good. Thank you. That's good, because it's like we forget that there's a yellow light. It comes before the red light, which comes before the green light. And sometimes we have to sit. We have to kind of, not sit in the yellow space so much, but move through the yellow space. Well, we might get a speeding ticket if we speed through the yellow space, but whatever, you know what I'm trying to get at.
That makes sense.
All right. So, and my next question, well, I'm going to skip over this next question because the next question is, what is your favorite lyric in the song? But we've covered that already. Is there a line in the song that you would be willing to sing for us?
I have not done a vocal warm-up today. The only time I have sung today was when my mom went out to the store and I was kind of just singing a song that I really like, and I was very off key.
Well, I mean, I'm really not concerned about you being on or off key. I would love to just hear your energy on a line that you are feeling right now.
The thing I relate to most of the time, I guess, generally, no matter what, would probably be, I'm just afraid to speak. Because no matter what, I mean, I can be in a green zone all the time, so we don't, beyond the zones, there's always that anxiety. That's just me, though. And so there's, I have no idea what my point was, but I feel that all the time. I distinctly remember, like, on more than one occasion, getting lightheaded, having to talk in front of the class.
Mm-hmm. So that line, do you recall exactly what the line is? It's not that I don't
know the answers. It's
I'm just afraid.
I'm just afraid to speak, yeah.
Do you remember how it goes to sing it?
I do remember how it goes. Oh no.
Oh, just a little, please.
It's not that I don't know the end. Oh my gosh, I am not trying that again.
It sounds lovely.
I am off key. I would need to do a vocal warm-up for that. Calming Spaces, I find the one song I can't sing out of all of them. The one I relate to the most.
Wow, maybe you just need to sit with it. Maybe it's not meant for you to sing. It's meant for you to listen and to breathe in rather than to breathe out, right?
I mean, yeah, you kind of are what you eat.
That's awesome.
It's one of the songs that you ingest, not one of the songs that you breathe.
That's beautiful, Elva. That's beautiful. Yeah. It's not that I don't know the answers. I'm just afraid to speak. And no one thinks I'm really listening. But the way I see and hear is unique. And I totally wasn't on key either, but whatever.
You were closer than I was.
Maybe together we can hit all the pitches.
Oh no.
Okay. So tell us about your journey from watching the musical to having the courage to be in the musical. So what changed for you that gave you the courage to perform it? And why was it so important for you to be in the musical?
So, from the beginning of when the musical started, that was like several years ago, I have a hard time remembering when any of the events happened, but I do remember that we were called down to an assembly one time, and it was like, I guess, the very first version of the musical in the school gym. And that was kind of awkward being there because school gyms are very uncomfortable. I mean, I've never liked sitting on the floor during assemblies. But I was there, and I think we were farther in the back, so it was really hard to hear, and I barely even picked up anything. But I was like, I don't care. I don't know what the plot is, but I know this is going places because I believe in Miss Walker.
But will you be my manager?
I'm not sure.
It's awesome.
So, from there, I was like, again, I didn't really know much about it, but full support for Miss Walker. So from then on, literally anything that had to do with it, I like whatever it was. If you were in class and you were just even bringing it up, I was like, it's that project of hers.
Oh, that's it. You're going to be one of my roadies. You're going to be in the ensemble hopefully as well too. Or maybe you'll end up being like a teacher in the musical one day because you keep growing up, you see. I have to keep giving you older roles.
Growing up, I mean, I've barely even grown. I mean, I'm barely taller than my mom. And I've been her height for like a year now, so.
Well, you'll wake up one morning and your bed won't fit you anymore. And you'll be like, what happened? You know, I'm not a hobbit anymore. Right? That's it. That's awesome. So, for you to be able to, I'm sorry, I probably should have let you finish because I know you had more to share, but just that, like what changed for you to give you the courage to perform in it, and why was it so important for you to be in the musical, and how did it feel to be a part of it?
Funny thing is, the rest that I had from the previous question kind of segues into that, so they're basically the same question anyway. When I heard about Elezra, I was like, okay, apparently when I found out, you know, that you were actually doing the musical in like a place, whichever school that was, I can't remember.
Clark.
I was really excited, and I was like, I want to see this because it's been a while. And I saw that, and I noticed immediately, and I was throughout the whole thing just having my eyes on her specifically, and it felt right. Like, just her seemingly uncomfortable in the class, just I felt that on like a spiritual level, because that is how I feel all the time. So that, and just understanding that in that way just sort of pushed me, and I was like, my anxiety may be bad, but I'm gonna try and get into this anyway because, you know, I wanted to be a part of it. I mean, I may not have, at that point, I was a part of it in a way, but I wanted to actually be there, and I wanted to do something. I wanted to just, you know, help in some way. And so I remember when we walked into the music room and me and Blaine were talking about the musical, and I was like, I forgot to sign up, and you eavesdropped on that conversation. It was like the perfect opportunity because you were like, I actually need more ensemble members, and I was like, got you right there. So that was interesting, and I enjoyed being part of the ensemble, and it's amazing. I mean, being part of it, it was because of Elezra. Just because I got to see it, and because I got to understand it in that way, I know you always say that you don't understand completely. Like, you understand to some degree, but you can never actually feel it in that way because everyone's different. And I know you have that feeling of doubt. What if I did something wrong? But the first thing my mom and I thought, and we thought it like it was sort of an autonomous agreement that it was perfect. It was spot on. And that is what pushed me. It was just, I don't care about my anxiety anymore. I mean, I still care about it, but when it comes to this musical thing, it is something I want to be a part of, so I'm going to have to push it aside.
Wow.
And that is what I did.
Wow. You know, Elva, and I've told you this before, but I really see you being an advocate for kids with ASD. I feel you being an inspiration, you know, like a motivational speaker that just says, come on, guys, let's do it afraid. Let's do it afraid, because we're standing up for something that needs to be spoken. And, you know, I get emotional because, I mean, you know my heart, Elva, you know my heart. It's all about giving as many kids as I can that platform to be heard, you know, and when you give them that platform to be heard, then so many other kids are learning from it, right? And we've heard some beautiful testimonies from the kids that have either watched the musical and, you know, are like, now I want to be in it, or have been in it and have played different roles and what that felt like and what they've learned from that experience. So I definitely see you going out there and being that voice, and I'm just so excited I get to be here to watch it happen. So thank you. I feel very honored. All right, let's see. Okay, here's a big one. What do you wish people understood about ASD?
There are so many things. I mean, especially the fact that everyone is different. That is something I think people need to keep in mind. You can't just go around assuming that because someone reacts a certain way to something, that another person will react the same way to that. Just like any normal person. You got to keep that in mind. I mean, except it's on a more specific level. So, think about it this way, right? You have two strangers. If you just go up to them and, let's say, hand them a box, they may have different reactions, because what is this box? Who are you? But, you know, it's just sort of, that is just a hypothetical. How will they react? You don't know them, they don't know you. They might think it's suspicious, so they could either take it hesitantly, or they could say no thank you, or they could do a multitude of other things. And that is just, you know, in a different reaction. That is how people generally are. Now with people with ASD, it's not exactly the same thing, but it's more so, it could be on a more specific level. Food, sensory. If you're gonna give them certain foods, you have two people with ASD, something with the food, one person may find it too hot, the other person may think it's the perfect temperature, and they're both the same temperature. It's just one may have heightened senses. And it's sort of that way with everyone. Everybody is individually different in their own unique way, and I just said individual using synonyms 3 different times in the same sentence. Wow. Okay.
Oh, brilliant, Elva. Brilliant.
Yeah, just keeping in mind that everyone is different, that is one very important step forward, because then you can keep your mind open to how they may react and why or what, more specifically, is setting them off. And other than that, because that's one of the more important things, another thing would be just that stigmas aren't always true. I mean, sometimes a stigma may exist that could technically be true. I am not don't quote me on that. But I mean, let's say there's a stigma about a certain thing. There are stigma that Canadians are always nice. That's not always the case, but there are certainly some who are. So there is the embodiment of a stigma. So certain stigmas may be true, just not the same for everyone. What I mean by that is just that it's a stigma that every person may be this way, but really only a select few people are. So just being bothered by everything, there are certainly some people who may be bothered by everything. But not everyone is like that. Some people are only bothered by half the things that person may be bothered by. So stigmas can be true, but you should really avoid believing them because it's, very important you don't listen to stigmas anyway. I mean, who does? But there are certainly some stigmas there. There are some things that, generally stigmas more so just apply to everyone being different, I guess. But stigma... I'm going off on a tangent, and I don't know where my point is.
You'll find your way back. I do that all the time. It's my ADD. I do find my way back. But man, I love the adventure when I go off my path.
So do I, and then I managed to wander off 42 kilometers in the wrong direction.
And there's a significance to the number 42. I'm sure of it.
I mean, that was just a random number, but sure.
Nothing's ever random. Your brain is remembering 42 for a reason. You need to figure that out.
Sticks with me because one time I asked how old my dad was, and I got the number 42. This was several years ago, mind you. He's no longer 42.
So that's that. I really love what you're saying about the stigma. Unfortunately, I know you would love to believe the best in people, but the truth is not every Canadian is nice. And sadly, a lot of people do believe in stigmas.
Yeah, again, stigmas like Canadians are always nice, or that Canadians live in igloos. Some stigmas are only half right. Some stigmas can be completely right, but only for one specific person. Canadians are always nice, for example. Not always true, but there is certainly a select few of us who are very apologetic and say we're just Canadian. That is what I do. I mean, I will bump into a wall and apologize to it. And my mom's like, "Oh, sweetie, you're just being Canadian." I mean, that's what people say about us, right? But that we live in igloos is not true. So I guess my point is there are stigmas about everything. Some are entirely false. So you have to pull that out of like another dimension. Like you really do. And then there are some stigmas that can be true to a degree, and some that can be completely right, but just in certain circumstances. I mean, using a country, the people of a country may not be the best thing to compare it to, but I mean, like, stigmas with censoring are certainly a thing. That we may overreact is not entirely true. It's actually, because I've done my own research too. I don't know everything about ASD, of course. So I've actually had to do my research as well. But the fact is, also from my own personal experience, it's not an overreaction. Like generally, if I pull away from something because I am uncomfortable, it is because I am genuinely uncomfortable and I do not want to be there or touch whatever thing you're trying to get me to touch. Again, because of sensory overload. It is an actual neurodiversities have to do with the way your brain is built, right? And that's the thing I think some people don't understand. It's not that something is completely wrong with you. Some people think we just completely overreact. Like, what sane human person would pretend to do such a thing on a daily basis? Like, it's not just an inconvenience to everyone else around you, it is an inconvenience to them to not react in the way they wish to react. So, you know, who would do that? We're not overreacting. It is the fact that our brains aren't developed in the same way that the average human brain is. It's completely different. And every neurodiversity does that, has the brain constructed in a different way. I mean, certain parts of the brain may be larger. Your brain may not function, one part of it may not function the same way that other things should. Kind of depends on what research you're reading, right? Or about what neurodiversity. But it's just the way the brain is constructed, and that's okay. I mean, it's okay for your brain to not work like the average person. I mean, so long as you aren't a bad person, I guess, it really shouldn't be an issue. As long as people are accepting of you, which they should be, because, I mean, just not being accepting of a person? I mean, I don't
know, man. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you have ADD, and I used to see that in class all the time. When you would get overwhelmed, right? Just, Miss Walker isn't having a good time. Miss Walker needs a few minutes to herself because the kids are being too loud. But I felt that too. I mean, never mind. I mean, I have ADHD, which isn't the exact same thing. And of course, it's sure to change, because the more neurodiversities you can have, because you can have more than one, they can affect each other, right? Like, that's sure to happen. They have something to do with each other. I mean, my ADHD doing the same thing of focusing on everything at the same time also means that I get more overwhelmed in the same way. It's just, any normal person cannot get overwhelmed, right? That is just a fact. Someone with ADHD or ADD may get more overwhelmed just by sight or sound alone, because of how much there is going on. I mean, someone with ASD can get overwhelmed as well, because, and when you have ASD, the way you get overwhelmed can lead to shutting down, and that is how it interferes with each other. If I didn't have ADHD, I may have not shut down as many times my sentence just deconstructed itself. If I did not have ADHD, I would not have shut down the amount of times that I have in my life. That number would probably be cut in half, just because of how many times I've gotten overwhelmed with sight or sound. Taking medication, it really helps, I find. When I go out in a public place, I need it. I mean, like, currently, being at home, I'm not on it, because I don't need it. I've actually found that I've been more relaxed, and I've actually been eating just a bit more because I'm off of it. I made the choice to go off of it, and I'm actually pretty, I'm enjoying my life a lot. I mean, medication can be something that is so weird. It affects you in such a strange way, and the last time I went out somewhere without taking my medication, like out somewhere where I got overwhelmed, was like a year ago. I forgot to take it before school, and I took it eventually, but I took it like a half hour late. And so that half hour while I was waiting for it to take effect was while I was in school. And I found, because it had been a while since I had gone literally anywhere without it, I had found that I was constantly focusing on different conversations everywhere. I mean, having not done that in a while, it's really, really bothersome. Like, because all the years that I've known you, I have taken my medication daily, and so I didn't get overwhelmed when the other kids were just being loud, really. I mean, I did occasionally, but that's only if they were, like, you know, getting loud to the point where I would get a headache, even. But when I had not taken my medication that day, I felt it. I felt it all. I had felt what I hated for actual years, just not being able to focus on a single thing, because my brain, multitasking, you know, just like you do. You multitask too, and I remember you always mentioning that, multitasking, because that's what we do best. But it's a lot harder to multitask when you're not multitasking on the right thing. I was trying to focus on my work, but all I could hear was chitter chatter, and I was listening to about 5 different conversations at the same time. 5. I mean, and I wasn't really paying attention because I didn't want to eavesdrop. I mean, I already do that anyway, and I don't... but it's crazy. Just 1 second I'm hearing someone talk about their favorite movie, then I'm listening to someone talk about that one time they visited the grandparents, and then in another 2 seconds I'll be focusing on someone else talking about another thing, because I can't control it. It is completely, you know, ADHD and ADD, the H is just hyperactivity, so we can consider the fact that they're basically the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Except a minor difference. ADHD and ADD are basically that rabid dog on the leash, and like...
But as long as it's Canadian, it won't bite you. Right? Or at least it shouldn't.
The rabid dog that you want to keep on the leash, but it's hard to keep on the leash. And when it gets overwhelming, it either forces you to let go because of how fast and forcefully it's moving, or, you know, when you don't take your medication, you're just letting go. Like, that's what that is. It is wild, and it could have rabies. I don't know. But it is a wild animal. It truly is. You know, and when you feel that, it's just sort of, no, should have taken my medication this morning.
You know, all I can think about right now, Elva, is like in completely empathizing, and why Chitter Chatter Morning Matters became what it became was because I wanted people to understand that that is exactly what our brains are like. When you break it down into all those parts, like, remember, like, all around the auditorium, you had the separate situations happening, conversations happening, right? Which, that's fine. But then you put them all together, all at the same time, and to a general, you know, typical brain, it's just noise. But yeah, to us, we can actually separate. Like, yeah, we have these sensory, like this extra, whatever, ET kind of, like, we can like zone into, like, oh, all these things all at once, right?
But you can't. But it's like a superpower, but the downside is you can't control it. Yeah, I mean, I felt that too. I mean, again, like I had said, I had been taking my medication for years. I've been on meds since like first grade. So, and I've had medication changes before, like dosage and whatnot. So the higher up I go, the more neurotypical I become generally when it comes to the ADHD. I mean, it might not change the hyperactivity. I don't know. I don't get hyper often. I honestly, but except for when I'm really excited. But and then I go off. But uh, you know, when I'm on my medication, I don't feel that. I mean, I can sort of get it because medication won't fix all your problems, and it can't fix it 100%. It's only temporary, and it only fixes it to a certain degree. So if there was enough around me, I could certainly feel it a tiny bit, but I was able to just drown it out as background noise. And I found that for literal years, I have found that to be a thing. The last time I had been off my medication and noticed a problem had been years before, so I had completely forgotten what that feeling was like. But I knew kind of the idea of chitter chatter morning matters, but I forgot what that felt like until that day I didn't take my meds. And that day was very much everywhere. And it's difficult to explain to someone who can't feel it, because someone who can't feel it doesn't understand exactly how bad it is, but it's bad. And that's when I remembered. So, I mean, and like, another thing is exactly when you're listening to music, you ever find that you just pick out like a certain instrument and listen to it? Yeah.
You can't go for a massage and have music playing and actually relax completely, because I'm dissecting the music, and I I try to like ignore one instrumental line and it just jumps to another instrumental line, and yeah, it can be painful.
Yeah, I honestly love dissecting music that way because it helps to learn by ear, and I've noticed things in songs that I didn't notice before, certain harmonies. It makes me happy when I think about it. But when I'm on my meds, I can just choose whichever one I want to listen to. I mean, I can choose to just listen to the bass line and ignore everything else. And then when I'm off my meds, it's just sort of, oh, this instrument, then this, then this, then this.
Yes.
It's the embodiment of that one time SpongeBob was drawing shapes and then his hands just went everywhere. That's ADHD, and ADD. I mean, they're basically the same thing anyway, but like, that's what it is. It's just everywhere at the same time. It's about as hectic as if I took a bunch of rubber balls and just threw them against the wall. I mean, it's sort of, you can take one rubber ball and, bounce it, catch it, and then repeat. But ADD and ADHD are the embodiment of walking into a room filled with bouncy balls just everywhere, but they never stop. And they never will.
And sometimes the bouncy balls are hard and they hit hard. Some are soft, but some are hard. Yes.
Exactly. Louder noises are more distracting.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. We need to write a book, you and I. Okay. So
it feels nice to have someone to talk about like this with, because it's someone who actually understands. I haven't spoken with Evan much lately, so I mean, I don't really have a friend to talk about it with, but
it feels good for me too, Elva. And I mean, the upside for me with this ability, right, to be multi-layered in my in my thinking and hearing is that it does allow me to create a lot of things all at once. And while I am creating something, and I certainly do not put myself in the same pool as Mozart or Beethoven, but I would have to say for sure Mozart was either he either had ASD or beyond a shadow of a doubt he had ADHD. I mean, what he was able to do, right? Hearing all of these different instrumental lines. And that is something that will happen. I'll sit down, right? I'll write a song and I'll do it within 10, 15 minutes. I've got lyrics and melody written. And then within 2 hours, I've got the whole orchestral arrangement done. And it's just because I am hearing stuff. And it's, I'm not saying, oh, I'm a genius, Elva. I'm just saying that that's just the way my brain works. And maybe the song and orchestral arrangement I have done is not everybody's favorite. But somebody out there who's wired similarly to me and who has a similar soul is going to understand and hear me. And they're going to feel like they're being heard. And then there's a connection. And so it's like, you want to take that beautiful wiring that you have and literally let it explode into all those particles and let it splash all over everybody. And then the people that it needs to stick onto, that need that kind of hug from you, they're going to receive it. Not everybody will, but somebody will. Somebody who really needs it will.
You're very attentive. I mean, again, Elezra was just perfect. Both my mom and I agreed on that. I mean, and I found some of the other kids, and like the ADHD was just also perfect. But then again, you also have ADD. So I mean, like, but like, I understood that, and I know how attentive you are. Like, you pay attention to everyone and what they're going through. You don't try to assume anything about them. You always want to know what's up. Like, you don't just go around saying, oh, it might be this. You actually go out of your way to think about what else it could be, and then you actually go and figure that out.
Well, Elva, I feel like this is my interview tonight. Thank you. You've filled my bucket to overflow. Thank you.
Wait, which bucket? What's the bucket? What's in the bucket?
The bucket of my soul. How's that? My soul bucket. The soul. The bucket of my soul. Not
you mean you're just adding more soul to the bucket?
Sometimes it gets depleted, Elva. How can others honor your need to have a calming space? Or how can others know when you need a calming space?
That is for sure just noticing signs, I guess. Usually of perfect examples here. Just generally any sort of signs of distress. Not drowning distress. I don't know why my mind went to think of a literal sense. Wait, of course, because I always do that. But just generally any signs that I may be uncomfortable. The discomfort can sort of be, I need some space, and then I'll be fine. But if I get too uncomfortable, I may want to be by myself, completely, in isolation. So generally it's any sign that I may want to be alone, that I am distant, that I am trying to get away, or that I may or may not be having a sensory overload, just keeping to myself. And stimming. Stimming is just, not just the things you do when you're bored. Stimming can be anything. And I play with my hair a lot. I haven't been doing that a lot recently. But right now I am doing that, and I am messing it up because it is a bit tangled. But I have a habit of doing that a lot because it's soft, so that helps calm me down to some degree, but it's just another thing to mess with. So a lot of it can be stimming because that is exactly what it is for. It helps with distress, just like a stress ball would, but with other actions. Sometimes I like to just sort of do random hand exercises like this. Sometimes that helps with distress. Sometimes I squeeze on my hand in a certain, I guess, rhythm. I can't believe I caught the word. I wanted to say that early, but I found it. So, yes, rhythm, perfect word. Or just any sort of thing that could help calm me down in that moment. And then generally, the next thing would be actually shutting down. If I am shutting down, that is when you need to know I need my time alone. If I am shutting down, generally, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, I don't appreciate other people coming to me because at that point in time, I've already broken down. I'm already upset, and quite frankly, I don't want anything that could make it worse. So I will try and keep my distance from other people. I will try and leave and find my own space where I can be alone. Usually at school, that would be out in the hallway if I'm in class, or even if it's lunchtime, I like to go outside because outside is nice. It has air, and even though I'm not much of an outdoorsy person, outside is just fun to walk. So that can also be a sort of sense of stimming because it's just walking, and I've been pacing a lot recently. That's another thing. I kind of do that when I'm upset. And just when you see that, you need to know that that person may need space. Maybe confront them later about it, or they'll come to you when they're ready. But you shouldn't pressure them to do such a thing because they may not be ready to talk. And when they are not ready to talk, that means that they are not ready to talk. They don't want to talk because they are upset and they need some time to reflect on whatever has happened. That happens with everybody, and I think everyone needs to know that. You don't always need to be there. You don't always have to be there for that person. You don't need to constantly surround them when they are upset, because as much as they may be comfortable with you, they may not want to be around you when you're doing that. A lot of people like talking to other people about their issues, which is true, but honestly, I find that I deal with my issues like just small things usually. If it's bigger and I actually need to talk to someone about it, I will. But certain issues I may want to deal with alone because I don't want to talk to someone about it, or, it's just something that I'd like to keep to myself. Or it's just, there's no point. I mean, I already feel comfortable after thinking about it. So, yeah, when you find that someone may need a calming space, just leave them be. That is generally the signs of distress are the first thing, but what you should do after that is maybe leave them alone.
I think that, Elva, you raise a very good point, and you did make mention of this in light. But I think that should just be a general rule, period, for everyone, right? Like, I think we just need to give them a formula to help them to understand. Like you said, you had to go and be trained in recognizing facial expressions. Well, you know what? No offense or anything, but I think that sometimes the people that are wired as normal brains need to be taught how to see the things that we see and they don't see. It's like we will sense things, for example, like, and I want to relate this back to a comment you made about how even though you had that anxiety piece, even though that was real and that was alive in you, that anxiety, you still felt like it was important to be a part of the musical because of what it stood for. So you became a part of the musical because of your connection to me, because of that soul connection. So it's almost like you came into a place that didn't feel comfortable for you, but you did it because there was a safety inside of that, because you picked up on the vibration of Miss Walker. And I think that's a gift. That's one of the gifts. We pick up on stuff, and sometimes, yes, too much to bear, but that can also be a gift, like you say, like a superpower, because that also allows us to see certain things that other people don't see. And maybe we can help people to recognize cues on a spiritual level that, you had to be trained in on a physical level, if that's making any kind of sense.
Even then, actually, after going through years of that, I don't always pick up on facial expressions and other things. And apparently, because your eyes are the window to your soul, that's another thing you need to pick up on. And I only found out about that like a year ago or something. And I was like, wait, what? Wait, you can see someone's emotions in their eyes? You need to look at more than their mouth.
Oh my gosh. Elva, guess what? There's another page. I do apologize. There's actually 2 more questions. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, actually, I'm really enjoying this.
Good. That I am too. This is wonderful. So number 12, I knew I had a better final question than the one I just threw at you, but okay. So number 12 is, if you could go back to elementary school, say kindergarten to grade 3, what do you wish people would have understood about you and your ASD? So what would you say to kids in elementary school now to help them understand kids with ASD and their need for a calming space? And you did touch on that with what you just shared, but let's bring it down to like a grade 1 level. What would you say to a little grade 1 kid?
I don't even, actually, we didn't know I had ASD until like I was in 2nd grade. So,
But now Elva, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you there for a second, because as you know, in the musical, I do pick apart the labels. Like, when you think about that one line in How Do We Survive, all we get is a, do you remember the word? Yeah. Like we're a product on a shelf, and I'm not disrespecting the need for there to be an identifier, but my point is sometimes we get mislabeled, right? Sometimes we get mislabeled, or sometimes we get multiple labels. And it's like, as a teacher, when I'm looking at an IEP and there's a gazillion pounds of information in there, and I get so caught up in reading every line on this piece of paper, or this many pieces of paper, that I don't have time to actually look into the windows into the soul of this child, because I'm so caught up in the lines that have been written on a piece of paper. And so what do you wish before that label? Okay, so let me rephrase this then. What do you wish before that label was given to you? What do you wish kids would have done differently?
Well, because we didn't even know what was up with me back then, we couldn't have figured anything out or told any of the teachers, but all I really remember, I guess, a couple things. I don't remember if kids questioned it. Honestly, they were probably more focused on school, even though they couldn't count. Okay, I'm gonna go off on a little tangent here, but I was in 1st grade and our teacher asked, what's like 2 plus 3? and then the kids would have like 3 fingers on their hands, and then they would start at 3, and then they would say 3, 4, because that was them adding 2, even though they already had 3, and they always got 4, and every kid answered with 4. The teacher said no, and then another kid would answer with 4. I was the only one who could count in like 1st grade. I don't know why. So I think the kids were more focused on actually learning French words, because I don't know, I wasn't there. Most of the things that I did, I don't really remember much of my early school years, but I do remember a few specific times in like kindergarten and 1st grade mostly. I would not be in the main area with the kids. Kindergarten was just do whatever you want. I mean, they would teach you colors and then tell you to go off and do your own things. So I can't remember. I don't know how I remember that, but that's what they did. So usually, instead of being with the other kids, I would go into like the cubby area and just kind of hide there, because I didn't want to be around the other kids, because I've never liked children as a child. I never actually liked kids when I was a kid. I mean, now kids are cute. So they're lovelies. But as a child myself, I never got along with the other kids. Like, I didn't understand them. Like, why does your favorite color matter? My favorite number is 0 because you can't divide by it. It's the most special number because it is neither positive nor negative. I mean, I would focus on more analytical things, I guess. That's always been me, but when I was little, it was just sort of other stuff I was interested in that the other kids weren't, and I couldn't talk to them. So, I would focus on other things, just sort of get caught up in my own mind of whatever random stuff I was thinking of, and the other kids would just be focused on whatever they're focused on. I don't know. So I would often keep away from them and stay in my own thoughts. That's because I have a habit of talking to myself, and I found myself quite entertaining. And that worked, apparently.
I honestly, I can see that, and it's beautiful. And my son Jade, who's ADD, he was really good at entertaining himself, and he would make all kinds of sounds. I remember in kindergarten he would do that. He'd be out in the playground playing with no choo-choo, but he had a choo-choo in his hand and make all kinds of choo-choo noises. And I remember the teacher saying that she was concerned about him. And I remember being so angry because I'm like, why? Because my son has an imagination? Like, why would you want to take? And it wasn't that she was trying to take anything away from him, but I think that whole experience for me was about just because he was different, suddenly there was a problem. And I really struggled with that, probably because I related to it. Being like that, I struggled to learn to read and write. A lot of that was emotional. And of course, at that time, I was daydreaming all the time. That's how I dealt with my emotions, right? I would just allow myself to go into other places other than where I was supposed to be in that moment, which was learning how to read and write. Now I know how to read and write. And because of all those places, my mind could go, I know what to write about. Right? So those experiences had to happen. But I just remember getting my back up because my son was able to play all by himself, and suddenly that was a problem, and that was a concern. And I want to be able to change the way educators think, and I want to be able to change the way.
Exactly. That's what my mom's been saying for literal years. Like, the teachers don't understand.
So what do you want the teachers to understand, Elva? So let me rephrase that question, or reframe that question.
For the second time.
What do you want kids to understand about the little kids in kindergarten and grade 1? What do you want the teachers to understand about the Jades and the Elvas and the Miss Walkers of this world?
We're just, let us be, thanks. First off, just because we don't want to be around other kids doesn't mean we don't want a social life. Kind of depends on who you are, though. I mean, that was just me. I was always kind of an outcast being by myself, and I found that entertaining, so who cares? But, it kind of sucked when you got rejected by your friend, though, and, like, when you asked, they would just say, because. I still don't understand that. Is it because I'm weird? Is it because someone else asked you to hang out at lunch? Like, thanks for helping me with my confidence. That very much did not hurt me. I still hold on to that.
What do you wish they had said? What do you wish they had said instead of because?
I wish they actually told me what was wrong. I wish there was that communication there. I understand others not wanting to hurt others' feelings, but when I don't know what the problem is, I can't try and fix it. So even if it could be because of my neurodiversity, the issue, I could try and not be as much of X as it is. I mean, I can't really change myself, but if I'm just being annoying, because I apparently was when I was younger, I wouldn't stop talking, which still holds true. So if it's because I'm annoying, just tell me. I wish the kids would have a little more communication and a little more vocabulary, because what is because? What is because supposed to mean? Oh yes, I do not want to hang out with you, and I will not hang out with you for this reason. What is for this reason supposed to mean if there is no reason?
It's an exit cue, ... So while you're turning the page, they've already left the room. Right? So they don't have to be held responsible for the answer.
Yeah, I get that, but like I should have also had the words to say it, though, because I didn't really know how to communicate that either when I was little. But if I were current me in little me's body, little me would have gotten really angry, and because that's how little me was, and I probably would have yelled at them if I knew what to say. Not anymore. I use normal words because angry people are just funny. But, you know, I wish I could have just told them, look, I know you may not want to hurt my feelings that you're not even sure I have, to be honest, but, like, I wish you would communicate that better with me, whatever the reason may be. I mean, you may not want to hurt my feelings. I know you don't want to say that you're trying to hang out with Stacy because I don't know what reason do little kids have? You want to hang out with Stacy because you like her more, or I just want to hang out with Stacy because I feel like hanging out with Stacy. Like, honestly, if they could just communicate that, like, oh, it's just, you're my friend, but I want to hang out with this person today. Maybe get to know them a little more. If they could communicate that better. Because every time I heard the word because, it broke my heart a little more. Every single time. And even though it was in like first and second grade that happened, I still hold it. I have not forgotten that. And I still... It still hurts. I don't know why. It really shouldn't, but it does, because Because that is my cue to exit. I am not giving a reason.
Dot, dot, dot. Wait, has anyone seen Elva? Elva? Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I mean, there's a reason why that question got asked then, isn't it? Isn't there, rather? There is. There's a reason that question got asked. And maybe that's something that we need to figure out a way to deal with. We need to figure out a way to help kids communicate. And you know me, Elva, I'm all about communication. I'm all about let's talk. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this.
Increase their vocabulary. So, use word like accustomed to. I've recently been noting down words. I do that because you know, if during the allocated time I have to live, I wish to gain knowledge of more than 50 words. I mean, as long as, because I mean, sometimes words are hard to find. Like, there are tools you can use to find synonyms, but to be honest, using those tools sometimes doesn't always yield every answer, because there are so many answers. There are so many, like, you can say however, you can say but, you can say although, you can also use though, even though they're basically the same thing. And there are several other words that can be used as well, but you may not find unless you search for that term specifically. So, I mean, I guess vocabulary is important. Little kids shouldn't need to learn that many words. Like, I understand that, but they should learn to at least communicate, like, on what they're feeling. Even don't try to hurt another kid's feelings, especially I feel like younger ones should learn that, because they're little kids. Communication, oh my gosh, what is this horrendous thing I have to deal with? But really though, we should have ways to help younger ones learn how to communicate their feelings in a way that won't hurt others. I don't just want to hang out with Stacy because I hate you. That's not why. I want to hang out with Stacy because maybe she's new here, or maybe she is the only one in this class I haven't talked to yet, and I want to spend some time with her. And maybe, I guess, I don't know what it is with kids and like hanging out, wanting to hang out with only one person the entire lunch period. Can't you just have a conversation? Why do you have to hang out with one other student? Why only one? I don't understand. Can't you have more than one friend? So, like, you're welcome to join us, but if it's something like you're a bit annoying, you know, I could just, you don't have to tell me I'm annoying. You could just say, could you not talk so much? You could request that I stop speaking so much. You could say that. I found that a lot when I was younger. I was always called annoying. That is the one thing I still hold onto, as even though my current friends never tell me I am. I know I am, and I try to stop, but I can't help it. I have so much that I want to talk about.
Well, I think it's a learned communication conversation. Like, okay, because I've had to learn some things myself through the years because I've always been so emotional, right? And same thing, I'm always like assuming, while I was growing up, I assumed that everyone was going to leave me. So I would want to be the first one to make sure that got sabotaged so that I could feel like I had control over that situation, right? So we all do things based on our very young childhood experiences, right? Those things that trigger us. And And I think that if we can all just learn to speak the truth all the time, that is your communication piece right there. Just learn to speak the truth all the time and do it kindly. Just speak the truth and speak it kindly.
Yeah,
Like,
there's no need to tell someone what you think is a white lie and is really the complete opposite. Actually, or just generally, hiding the truth hurts a lot more than lying, I think. Because it leaves them to wonder if it was just a miscommunication, or if they really do hate you and you get conflicted on the answer for that, and it really affects you.
yeah. And then you got to find your people. I mean, let's be honest, Elva, not everybody is your people. And that's one of the ways you discover who your people are. And that's another line in the musical, right? And when you are, more yourself, and you're more in touch with yourself, and you find ways to love yourself and to give voice to that beautiful gift that's within you, whatever that is, then you will just naturally attract the right people into your world. And those are the things that they're going to love about you. They're not
I
going to be
talk to strangers.
Mm-hmm.
I can't talk to strangers. That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, everybody's a stranger until you get to know them, right?
Well, yeah. I can't talk to groups of random people unless I have a friend with me. That's the thing. That's even the hardest part for me currently. I mean, like, I met in my high school, right? There was this specific group of people, and we, my friends, like my current group, we liked to joke that they were like us, because there was one student who I related to. Like, he doesn't have ASD, but I related a lot to him. I mean, in other ways, right? Like, we both have glasses. I mean, small things too, but other things as well that we both understand, because we both like video games. We're both into, other things, and so we got along really well. I mean, we would talk a lot in class, and then our teacher may have tried to separate us. I can't remember. I somehow managed to sit next to him. But she would like compare different people of that person's group to us, because everyone in my group had somebody they knew in that group, and so we were in one of their classes, so we got to know that group. But if I ever saw that group in the hall, I wouldn't just talk to them on my own. Or even if there was someone that I'm friends with already talking to them, I would always have to stick with a friend and do that. So there's serious issues with communication there that I really need to be fixed. But, it'll come eventually.
It will. It will. Yeah. Look how far you've come now, Elva. Like, even from the very beginning of the stage of the musical, how you were an audience member, and you were, okay, I like this because Miss Walker's attached to it. But then, wait a second, I'm attached to it now, right? I'm a part of it. Oh gosh, that's me. I'm being given a voice. And eventually you started to build your courage and your confidence to be a part of it. And I think, for me, bringing it back to the simple point, I think as an educator, as a human being, I think that one of our goals in life, really honestly, is to just constantly think about how can we establish a safe place for others? How can we personally be a safe place for others? Because in this world, with so many uncertainties, especially right now, we really do need each other in ways that we've never before needed each other. And we need to be able to feel safe, because everything is just so chaotic and so uncertain that the last thing we need to be around is negativity, pessimism. Like, we need to be around people that are going to breathe life into us, period. and let us be who we are, right? And more importantly, to be extremely true to who we are and not care, not give a flying flute what anybody thinks of us, and I'm finally at that point. That's why I wrote the song Courage Comes Alive. I don't know if you got to hear that song, but one of the things I want to do with the Voices of Light, not just this piece here of the Unpacking, but I want us to actually take some of the songs that I've written over the last few months since the pandemic happened, and unpack those songs and really talk about those songs and how they relate to our lives right now. And Courage Comes Alive was all about that, me watching my students online suddenly do things they've never done before because they're not in a classroom anymore where people are staring at them. And the chorus is, courage comes alive when there's nowhere to hide. And when I don't care who is watching or not watching me, my courage comes alive when there's nowhere to hide. And I'm forced to look inside to see what's beautiful in me.
Speaking on courage and that stuff, I mean, I feel so comfortable with you. Even though I know this is an interview, I don't know how comfortable I would be with any other person. But honestly, no, even though I know this is an interview and I know it's being recorded and I know this is going to be put out there, I feel so comfortable with you. It just feels like a one-on-one. Like nobody's ever going to watch it. It just feels like talking to you, and that's great. And another thing is, I love the other members of the musical. I've become kind of attached to them. I mean, I haven't actually come to practice in a while. Because driving there is kind of whack. But my heart and soul is still wanting to do it, and I love hanging out with the other people there. I mean, one of my best friends is in it, because I'm close with him. But other people that I've met, I really get along with, and even people that I used to just see as classmates that I never really talk to except occasionally, I've been able to hold a conversation with them sometimes, and that's a great feeling. Even if we're technically only acquaintances, I guess, it's still so comfortable, and I love it.
That's good. That's the way it should be.
I get to just joke around, and I feel so comfortable in the environment there, not afraid to mess up, except for when all we've been doing for the past half hour is messing around. That's when there's no more horsing around. That is where we need to continue, but at that point, it's just, I love it. And then when we would take a break and just sort of chat and whatnot, that was... I love being part of the musical.
Wow. Thank you, Elva. And I love that you were a part of it. So, and we're going to do more stuff together. I don't know what that looks like right now. I just know that it's going to have to do with these kinds of conversations and, music, which is the whole point of Voices of Light anyway, was as an outreach of kids being advocates for kids, kids being voices for kids, other kids. Obviously directed by me and conducted by me. But at the same time, I just think that while you guys are learning from me and you're trusting me and you're coming into my safe place, you're also learning how to create and establish a safe space for other kids. You're learning that language yourselves. And I love watching it unfold. So
I love you in the same way that I love my family. Just, I gotta throw that out there. I feel that same energy with you that I feel with my family. Just that sort of so comfortable. I can share something with you if I really need to. You are a safe space. I think you, not just for me, but for other students, you are that teacher who will listen. And I've had teachers in the past who just didn't understand at all. Grade 6. But, there's a reason that was kind of my least favorite year. But I found you were really the one person who kept me going that year. I mean, that year I had tremendous amounts of anxiety. I always felt like I had to do like a project, which was true. I mean, one time I had like 3 projects like consecutively. Um, so my anxiety just shot way up, and my self-esteem just sort of dropped. Um, and I'm still recovering from that. But you were just, even though I had only met you that year, I felt within not even that long after meeting you, maybe like a week or two, I felt so comfortable just because of your nature. You just have that aura of just, I want to be there. And just even being around you helped me calm down. And even it was so bad when I got into 7th grade, I got a mini project, which is basically like an assignment. It was an assignment, I swear. You could just call it an assignment. And I almost had a breakdown over it. I started crying because just the word project kind of sent me off after the previous year. But really though, you've always been there, and I'm so thankful for that.
You know what, Elva? It was easy because you are so precious, and thank you. Because I've been beating myself up lately because I've got over 300 students right now, and you just feel like you can't meet everybody's need, and you're going to let people down. And I've been I've been hard on myself lately. So your words especially mean a lot to me right now. So thank you for that.